This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Former President Trump left a shocking number of the government's most highly sensitive secrets unguarded at his Florida residence, including documents detailing U.S. nuclear weapons, defense vulnerabilities, and potential plans for an attack on Iran. Jeff Murdoch reports an unsealed Justice Department indictment said Trump willfully retained national defense information. Unlike other government markings such as confidential or top secret, which can be declassified, national defense information outside a secure government facility is illegal to possess. Such documents show military strengths and weaknesses and methods and sources for gathering that information. In an audio recording leaked to CNN and aired on Tuesday, Trump acknowledges he held on to a classified Pentagon document about a potential plan to attack Iran. Trump is charged with 37 federal counts, including 31 counts of willful retention of classified government documents. Wagner Group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin has surfaced in Belarus, days after leading the disruptive armed uprising that rocked the government of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Mike Glenn and Dave Sands report Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko confirmed that Prigozhin and thousands of mercenary fighters were staying in his country beyond the reach of a rattled and angry Putin. The fate of Prigozhin and his fighters is one of the unresolved issues after the events of the weekend. Armed fighters occupied a military headquarters site in Rostov-on-Don and were advancing to just over 100 miles outside of Moscow before calling off the revolt. The Supreme Court delivered a pair of decisions on elections and free speech as its term winds down. First, Alex Sawyer and Stephen Dinan report the court rejected the independent state legislature theory, deciding that courts do have a role to play in refereeing how elections are conducted. In a 6-3 decision, the court shot down Republican lawmakers' theory that the U.S. Constitution invested final say over election rules with the legislature of each state and that state courts must stay out. And the court reaffirmed that the First Amendment does not protect truly threatening speech, but said states must prove that the speaker had at least some understanding that the words crossed a line. In a 7-2 ruling, the court vacated the conviction of a Colorado man who sent a musician repeated messages that he considered intrusive and threatening. The man argued his words were not threatening. A state court found the man guilty under an objective standard that a reasonable person would have known the behavior was out of bounds. The Supreme Court ruled that the objective standard violated the man's First Amendment rights and that speech restriction requires a higher standard. Federal prosecutors have announced charges against 4 Mexicans who they say helped orchestrate a smuggling tragedy last year. Stephen Dinan reports prosecutors said in an indictment that the smugglers knew the air conditioner in a semi-trailer had given out, but they went ahead with the 3-hour trip from the border to San Antonio on a 100-degree day. Some migrants screamed and pounded on the walls of the trailer. Others clawed at the sides as they tried to break through. When authorities reached the scene, 48 migrants were dead. 5 more died in a hospital later in what analysts labeled the worst single migrant catastrophe at the southern U.S. border. And finally, Mark Kellner profiles Senate Chaplain Barry Black as he celebrates his 20th anniversary in the role. Black says he feels free to speak his mind in ministering to, and sometimes admonishing, the 100 lawmakers in the chamber. A former Navy chaplain, Black became the first black man, first military chaplain, and the first Seventh-day Adventist pastor to hold the position when he was confirmed in 2003. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in your favorite podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at WashTimes for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerber.